My name is Paul Tidey. I'm a certified financial planner with Arbutus Financial in Nanaimo, British Columbia. When I started, finishing up university was all you really needed to get in the door, and from there went on and carried on and did a number of other coursework and other certificates, including my CFP, FLMI, ACS, CPCA. They mean something in the industry, but anyway, it's a never-ending learning environment. Licenses in securities and in life insurance, and there's continuing education hours I must maintain throughout the year and be able to prove those. If I can't, I can lose my license. Well, it took about 6 different interviews. Dealt with a number of different people who were in a number of different financial institutions. And then it was by chance and by being at school and having a good friend whose father worked there, who said, "Have you ever thought about applying at Manulife Financial?" At that time, I had applied to a couple of big bank institutions, and I thought that's where I thought I might have wanted to work. He enlightened me that there were so many other opportunities available inside of Manulife that I should consider taking a look, and he suggested that I meet a few people that he knew who were in the program. Again, 4 of those fellows were at various stages of the program. One guy had only been hired for about 4 months at that point. The others were managers who had been there for a number of years. They gave me an idea of what it would be like, and I knew that I had to follow up with each of them, 1, to say thank you for their time, and 2, to make sure that they knew I was very interested in the opportunity after having had a chance to learn a little bit about it, albeit only by doing some research. And you need to remember, the internet was not quite what it was back in those days, so a lot of it was paper research or newspapers, going to the library, so it's much easier now. But if I was going to go out today and look for a job, I would certainly go online and learn as much about that individual without really being a stalker as possible, and then move forward from there and let them know that I paid enough attention and cared enough about getting to know more about them and looking for their opinion that it mattered. And that's how I would look if someone was coming to me. If they don't know anything about my business, I wouldn't be overly impressed to start with, and that would not help them get in the door. It's very difficult. There's many jobs that are available in almost every industry that are never, ever advertised. You have to go out there and look for them and find them. You need to, at this stage now, I would take a look and try to get an idea of what businesses are actually growing in whatever community I want to live in, or what businesses are growing in the financial services area or whatever industry you're interested in. Then I would consider a cover letter which is very short and to the point, and saying this is what I want to do, and leaving enough room for interpretation that they can find some role for you, hopefully inside that industry, or again, you've already researched that industry and you know the role you're looking for. If you say I'll start anywhere, then you probably won't get anywhere, because unfortunately they're looking for that enthusiasm, but on a resume that's not going to be helpful. I'll also look for a relatively short resume that is relevant to the position. It would also be helpful to show some kind of social background that you've been involved in, activities, sports, volunteer work, something that just shows that you're more than just a one-dimensional piece of paper. Because if you don't stand out, you're not going to, on that piece of paper, if you're dropping it off, it's not going to help. It's also critically important when you go in to drop off a resume that whomever you meet, you remember their name, and you make sure you follow up with that person. Even if it's the person at the front desk, you remember his or her name, and you welcome them next time you drop by and let them know you're interested. Has anything come up, or has there been any movement on hiring? You need to follow up on those things without being a pain. There's a fine line there. It's very difficult. You'll get to know that once you realize if they close the doors when they see you showing up to come in. You've crossed the line. But it is important to make sure you follow up. It's not their job to follow up with you. There is going to be a number of skill shortages in a number of industries, and while we are always on the lookout for smart young people who bring us up to date with what's available in technology, especially, we also look to them to pay attention to our business is very much based on the relationship, and that has to be they have to be a social person in our industry. In other industries, you can work behind a closed door and never talk to anyone, and that's fine. But if you want to have any type of sales or advice type of career, you have to have a social ability with those people. It's amazing as far as interviews go, the people who really stand out and the people who don't stand out. And it's unfortunate that for those people who don't stand out, someone didn't take time just to give them a few simple tips. Making sure that you brush your teeth is always helpful. Your hair is combed if you have it. You're well dressed. You're dressed appropriately for the industry you want to apply for. If you're expected to wear a tie, you should have a tie. If you're not, that's fine, but you need to be prepared. When you show up to meet the individual, you look them in the eye, you shake their hand firmly, you don't try to hurt them, but you don't give them a limp fish one in this culture. In other cultures, you would not shake someone's hand. Again, depending on where you're going, you need to understand the local customs and follow those appropriately. I have seen people show up without a pen. They know there's going to be an exam that day, and when we have if someone makes it through the first interview, then we'll have them come in and we'll have them do a number of different computer tests, and sometimes it will also include a written test as well. We need to see if they can actually write something in case there is no power, or if there needs to be some kind of note that's not going to work on an electric system. Those things are important, so making sure you have a pen ready that works. It sounds silly, but it's the little details that will make a big difference and will be remembered by the person interviewing you as well. And also having a chance to role play before you go in. Think about questions that you have about that position, and put yourself in the other person's shoes, and what are they looking for, or what do you think they're looking for, and try to anticipate those questions that would be helpful. On the other side, when you see that kind of preparation, that's the kind of candidate that really catches our attention, and we want to say, all right, we may not have a position for them now, but we want to keep them. We'll keep contact with that person. It's amazing throughout your career the people who you will meet, who may be your boss to start with, and you may be their boss somewhere down the road. So again, burning a bridge never makes any sense, and keeping as many options open always does. The only other incident I can really remember was when someone barged their way into my office with a resume that looked as if someone from a kindergarten class had written it. The grammar was poor, the spelling was worse, the spacing was atrocious. It was just completely inappropriate. They thought by being very aggressive that would be a very helpful thing. In our business, being assertive is really important, and making sure that people know that you care and want to follow up on things, but being aggressive is usually just considered to be a pushy salesperson and not really appropriate for many businesses, at least in the ones I'm aware of. A long time ago, someone sent a resume on a cassette tape. Some people may not even know what that is. It's just an old, sort of like an old movie tape, except much smaller, and you would listen to music on it. Well, they had their resume on that, and it's a little presumptuous and a bit of a waste of money, I thought, but nevertheless, it did catch your attention. Sometimes grabbing the attention might be all that person's looking for, especially in a large company where there may be thousands of resumes received in a year or even in a month. If yours stands out, that's helpful. Having it stand out by using perfume all over it, please don't do that. It's not appropriate, and there are many people who are allergic to those type of things. I've seen that as well. I don't care if someone uses a rose-colored paper. No, I'm just looking for something that's well laid out in a business. We're dealing with a business. If you're dealing with a flower shop, maybe that would be more appropriate. I don't know. I don't think so. I've also looked now and thought more about, if we're looking at hiring someone, we will of course also Google that person or whatever the search we would want to have to find out a bit more about them. So if you already have a LinkedIn profile, you probably want to have that appropriately on your resume to control the information that you want to prospective employer. But in controlling that, again, if you have inappropriate pictures on any website that you have in the public, you may want to take those down. That's probably a good idea. It's not that we need to know everything that someone does in their normal everyday life. However, it's important, it can be construed that you will carry on like a buffoon during your work day if you carry on like a buffoon outside, and therefore you may not be hired. Unfortunately, there's too many people who think there's no problem with doing whatever on YouTube, and then finding out that 5 years later when they're looking for a serious job, they can't get one because of whatever prank they pulled when they thought it was just being fun. Fortunately, I don't have to go back into the workforce again and try to look for my first job, especially my first management job after taking the training, going and taking a master's degree, and having had some real life experience. Those things are all important. So it's not quite the same as a pure entry level, but you're going to have a difficulty getting up into anything more than middle management at best to start with, unless you have an incredibly good specialty that you've taken. Again, I would consider what kind of business I want to work in or what industry I want to work in. I would dress appropriately. I would learn the language and deal with that appropriately. I would be prepared to do whatever you have to do to make that happen. Some jobs, people think it's 9 to 5. That's really not realistic anymore, especially if you're in management. The timing is all the time. And there's so many more shift works than there used to be. Usual for people like myself to work on weekends as well and evenings. Fewer evenings now, but weekends allow people who are very busy to get together or having late afternoon appointments. I have many business people I work with. Having a 5:30 appointment or a 6 o'clock appointment is tremendously appreciated, because we can get together after their main business day is done. So those are the things you have to be prepared to do and be ready to push yourself out there. And again, follow up with who you think would be a helpful candidate, and make sure you check with your contacts. Your family and your friends do have contacts. LinkedIn, all these areas give you a tremendous step up than what we had back in 1987 as far as where to look. And again, getting that first contact, getting that foot in the door is the important thing. You say thank you to whoever helps you get there. What happens after that is currently up to you, and how much effort you want to put into it.